Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of MSATP TV. Joining me today is Mark Reedman with USB Financial Merchant Services. And Mark, you want to tell us a little bit about your company?
Yeah, USB payment processing. We're a credit card processing company. We've been partnering with the MSATP for I don't know, 5-6 years already. What we do is we partner up with a lot of the accountants and the accountants' customers to be able to process their credit card transactions and ACH transactions at a less expensive rate and give them the best service and support that they can have locally here in Maryland.
Okay. And maybe you could tell me a little bit about the difference between a swipe transaction and a chip transaction.
Well, the old-fashioned way of doing it, obviously, is the swiping the cards, and that was our technology for many, many years. Europe, many years ago, came up with chip cards, and in Europe, it's been used for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. The United States just started doing chip cards probably about 5-6 years ago. So the technology is way more advanced as far as security-wise. The swipe transactions can be duplicated. There's tons of fraud, and that's the reason why your rates keep going higher and higher back in the days. Now the chip cards have taken place. The security has driven down fraud quite considerably, and it is quite a bit less fraud that we see, which means merchants are losing less money. People can't charge back as much and just rob the merchants, so to speak.
Okay. What about the cards that have the tap thing on it? Is that similar to the chip
that's all
technology?
Yeah, as far as security wise, that's fine. I mean, it's using the smart card in the credit card, so it's using the same technology, and it's just transmitting it through the air as opposed to directly in the terminal.
Okay. And maybe you could tell us also a little bit about the difference between a live transaction where you have a card versus one that you key in on your computer or whatever, somebody pays you over the phone or through the internet or whatever.
Okay. Well, in past years, it was a huge difference. In the way that we can price transactions now, there's not that much of a difference in the pricing these days. As well, let me back that up. Depending on who you go through, there may not be a difference in the pricing. I can do swipe transaction or chip transactions at just about the same rates as I can do keyed-in transactions these days, because there's a different way of pricing it now than there was back years ago. So a lot of the banks and a lot of the processors that are out there, they're still going to price you in 2 or 3 different ways because they're going to try and make the most money out of you, right? The way we price it is what's best for the customer. So we're using the interchange fees, and what that is each credit card has roughly 200, 250 different types of cards. So there's 400, 500 different types of interchange fees based on each card. So a Visa debit card is different than a Visa Rewards card, and a Business Rewards 1 is different than Business Rewards 2. The general public wouldn't know the difference when they look at their card. They just know I have a Southwest Visa card, I get points for it, right? Or I have a PNC debit card and I use it for purchases. We see the difference when it comes in, when it's chipped, and when it goes through the system, it goes into whatever bucket, well, it should go into whatever bucket that type of card is. So we have all the buckets for every type of card, so we send it to the right bucket. What our competitors do is they take 3 or 4 buckets and they try and jam 400 cards into 3 or 4 buckets. What ends up happening is the competitor makes more money off of the customer, right? And that's why the customer is paying higher fees. So when we come in and we analyze their statements and we break it down, we can actually show them this is why you're paying a higher rate. If we break it down into from 4 buckets to, let's say, 45 buckets or however many cards they've taken, it drives their cost down, which puts the savings back into their pocket.
Okay. Now, the interchange fees, how are those determined?
Those are determined by Visa MasterCharge. They set their rates every single year. It's a published interchange rate. It's something you can look up online. Anybody can access it. There's no hidden interchange rates. What we find is there's even some of our competitors that when they say they're charging you interchange plus, a lot of the times they'll add extra onto interchange. So if what should be, or let's say a card that should show up at 1.5%.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes our competitors are padding that number, and they're adding 20 basis points, 25 basis points. So it shows up as an interchange card, but it's showing up instead of 1.5 that I would know, it's showing up as 1.75. So again, the customer yourself would never know unless you got out the interchange tables and sat there and went through every single card. We know them based on just looks because we do this every single day. So when we get your statements, we have someone analyze it. When I look and say, okay, this should be at 1.5, they're at 1.75, they're charging you above and beyond interchange. So
Okay.
we can find those hidden savings for you. And again, that's why when we do a cost analysis and we put them side by side, we'll show you exactly where your savings is coming from.
Okay. So when somebody is interested in your services, the best thing they can do is provide you with a credit card statement, I guess, where
Correct.
you can see exactly what it is that they're paying.
Correct. What we ask for is a couple statements, and depending on if you're seasonal or non-seasonal, if you're just if your business is pretty much steady across the board for 12 months, and obviously sometimes Christmas is much larger,
Uh-huh.
we ask for 2 or 3 statements just so because sometimes our competitors and the banks will put certain fees on 1 month and certain fees on the second month, and they kind of break it down so you can't really tell what you're paying, and that they do that purposely. So we ask for 2 or 3 statements so we can obviously take a look and see if that's being done, and then give you a snapshot of not just 1 month, but 2 or 3 months. If you're a seasonal business and you've got your highs and your lows, we'll ask you for a couple months of your high end and a couple months of your average end, and we'll do those as well. This way you'll know what you're saving in the larger months as opposed to just the smaller months too.
Okay. Now, have you noticed an uptick in the use of people using credit cards since the COVID came about?
You know what? It's hard to determine that only because there's so many businesses that when I look at the portfolio of business that we have, and again, we've been doing this for almost 26 years now. We're not just getting into our 26th year of business here in Maryland. When I look at what's out there and I see the businesses that are struggling during this pandemic, and that some have gone out of business, or some that we've turned them off and put them to seasonal so they don't get billed their fees, so they can survive and hopefully come out of this at the end. So it's hard to see because a lot of them, again, what someone that was doing 12 or 15 or $50,000 a month may be closed right now. So my portfolio shows that, yeah, we have plenty of people that are still processing, and some of the restaurants have actually done quite well because they've gone to all takeout and people feel the need to order from local businesses, which is fantastic. But there are some businesses that the retail people that, like, they need feet on the street and people aren't walking around, and it's killing them. So yes, there's definitely an uptick in sales in certain areas, but in like the retail sector, it's more kind of online than retail. And that doesn't help the small to medium business that we have here in Maryland.
Okay. I guess what I was thinking more of is, are people using credit cards or debit cards more frequently than cash these days?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think cash is, I don't think anybody even wants to put their hands on cash right now because everybody's afraid. Again, part of the pandemic is, do you want to touch the coins? Do you want to touch the dollars? So it's easy to just tap your card or put your chip in and not touch anything and pay that way. I think people are moving away from cash right now I think it's going to be for quite a while.
Okay. So you think that maybe the future of a cashless society is coming around now? You think this is helping that, or you don't think it has much of an effect?
You know what? I think for right now, people are kind of afraid of what's going on outside of the, like, in the country, or what's going on here. I don't. I just can't imagine ever having a cashless society, because I think there's people that don't have credit cards and don't have bank accounts, and for them it would be impossible, right?
Right.
Do I think a lot of people utilize their cards to get, like I said, their rewards and their points so they can get lower gas prices and a free airline ticket? Yeah, I think people are utilizing that more and more these days. And the credit cards realize that. And that's why the interchange tables change. And that's why they're constantly adding new types of cards.
Okay. If you could give us a little bit of advice, what is the number one thing that we should be looking out for when we're accepting credit cards?
Well, again, it's very different than what it was. Back in the day, the credit card would be handed to the merchant. The merchant would then put it in their machine, and he'd be able to look at the card. And I would say if you're touching the cards, look at the name, make sure the name matches to whoever that person's supposed to be. If you want to really be safe, you can ask for an ID to make sure that the person utilizing the card has a matching ID, right? We don't always do that, and most people don't. With chip cards, there's really a lot of security built into that. So the merchant should feel pretty safe. If it's a chip card, you really it's pretty secure. If it's not a chip card and still has the magnetic stripe on the back, and you're doing it that way, you probably want to ask for ID just to make sure that that person is that person, because nobody wants to make a sale, and everybody feels great when they make a sale, a big one or whatever they sell. But nobody wants to get that call that it was a phony card, and it becomes a chargeback, and they not only did they lose the product, but they lost the money.
Okay. Talking about credit card fraud, is there much credit card fraud going on in the world today?
Not as much as there used to be. Again, prior to the chip cards, the fraud was enormous. I mean, we're talking millions and billions. With the chip cards, the fraud has been driven down tremendously. I believe that the number I saw the other day was something like 74% less today than there was prior to chip cards.
Oh, wow.
So the chip cards, the technology of chip cards have really driven it down. It took the United States a long time to get chip card compliant, and there's still merchants out there that have terminals that are not chip card compliant. And we try to get them to upgrade. There are people that are willing to do it. And then there's people saying, you know what, my terminal's not broken, I'm going to keep using it. And we try and explain to them that you're setting yourself up for fraud. But again, I can't force somebody to listen to technology.
Now, is it more expensive to process debit card transactions than it is credit card transactions?
You know what, it used to be. It's not so much anymore. And we're seeing fewer and far less debit cards than we ever have. And the reason being is most of your Visa credit cards or MasterCard credit cards, a lot of them are like debit cards, but without the PIN. So you can use it as a regular chip card and run it the same way. It's the it's the PIN-based debit that used to be much more expensive, and it's really not really utilized as much as it used to be.
Okay. If you were looking for an ideal customer for your business, what would that customer look like?
You know what, we have such a large variation in our portfolio here, because we do anybody who wants to take a payment, we can accept, whether it's retail, whether it's internet-based, whether it's, like I said, an accounting firm taking cards over the phone, whether there's reoccurring billing, like you want to be able to bill somebody every single month a certain amount or the same amount every month, however you want to do it. We can process for everybody, from lawyers to doctors to retail to mail order to manufacturing. It doesn't really matter to us. What we want to do is be able to set them up in the right way and give them the best capabilities to take their transactions. So whether, like I said, whether it's a card on the internet and you need a buy button on your internet website, right? Or a shopping cart, we can help you do that. Whether you need reoccurring payments, you have a parking garage and you want to bill somebody $100 a month every month on the first, we can set that up. Whether you want the retail environment, you're a pizza shop or you're a retail store, we can set that up with all the bells and whistles. And like I said, as you grow, all of a sudden you get a website, we can help you with that. You want to do reoccurring billing, you want to do however it is you want to do it, we can do it. So we're really not boxed in. There are some businesses, there are some people like myself that only do, let's say, eye doctors, and that's all they do in the whole country. We can do virtually any business anytime.
Okay. So as an accountant, if I'm referring my clients to you, because this program is going to be listened to by our members, what's the advantage of referring our clients to you?
So we've been doing this with you guys for, like I said, 5-6 years, maybe even more. I'm not even sure. The advantage to referring it to us, as opposed to the merchant just going to either their local bank or to just some guy who walks in off the street, is that one, you guys know us, right?
Right.
So we've been in
Mhm.
business where, and the MSATP, as a matter of fact, you guys process all your transactions through us as well.
Yes, we
And
do.
and we did a cost analysis for you guys and showed you the enormous savings that we could provide, and that was one of the reasons you came to us.
Right.
What we do is first of all, we have our footprint is really Maryland. I mean, that's our general footprint. Now we can do Delaware. We still do Delaware, Northern PA, DC, Virginia, and we also do people all over the country. I have customers in Alaska and Arizona and Florida and New York. So anywhere in the country we can process. So it doesn't prohibit us from helping your customers if they're outside of Maryland. But Maryland is our footprint where we do a lot of face-to-face. And in the pandemic days, some people don't want to do face-to-face, but we still have people that we're going out and seeing face-to-face. The difference between us and everybody else is if your customers have an issue, they're not calling one out of the country for customer support. They're not calling Florida, New York, or wherever they are. They're actually calling Towson. They're calling Towson, Maryland, to our office. We house all of the financial support, customer support, technical support here in-house. So from 8:30 to 5:30, Monday through Friday, which is pretty much all our business hours, if there's something that goes wrong, you're calling here, right? And we don't have a call tree set up. We answer the phone within 1 to 2 rings max. The phone rings at 10 different desks, so it's not like just one secretary is answering the phone. It'll ring on my desk. It'll ring at everybody's desk, and if it rings more than once, everybody grabs the phone. So if you've got a problem, you got a customer standing there, you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get help almost immediately. But face-to-face is huge. And again, the accountants know me because I'm at just about every single event you guys produce prior to what we're going through. And I plan to be on every one after this as well. So a lot of the accountants who already send us business, I mean, we have tons of referrals from your clients, and they send us business because I've sat and talked with them at the events throughout the years. And then at one point the customer said something to them, or they looked at the statement and said, wow, you're paying a lot of money. Let me at least get a comparison.
Right.
What we do is we'll take those statements from you guys, we'll do a comparison, and I'll say, listen, I can either hand this back to the accountant and you can present it to your customer. I can go with you and present it to your customer, or I can send one of my guys and go directly to your customer and say, listen, your accountant gave us these. We want to show you side by side what you've got. And then I want to talk to the customer and find out what they need. Because a lot of the times they're sold something to take credit cards and it's not what they need for their business. So they're utilizing some technology because somebody that walked in sold them that. But when we look and we say, well, why using that? And they say, well, that's what I was told to use. And we show them a completely different way that's beneficial for their business to be able to accept the cards in a better manner.
Sure. Well, it's nice to have the local customer support and everything else right here, so that our members can feel confident that they'll be taken care of. So I think there's a huge plus for that. Like you said, you're not calling and getting a service department in another country or something like that, and taking care of your customer. All right, Mark, any final words that you want to impart upon us?
You know what? We're here to help everybody. And I know the pandemic's going on, but I would tell you this is the best time for the customers to talk to us, because I know every dollar counts when it comes to the customers out there. I see how many of them have closed up. I see how many of them we've put on seasonal business just to save them a buck. And I see how many of them are struggling every single day. If you get us the statements and you allow us to take a look at what you do, we'll show you where your savings are. And like I say, here, the best case scenario is we're going to tell you, you've got a fantastic deal. Don't change anything, right? That's their best case scenario in looking at the statements. The better case scenario is we're going to look at the statements and show them, hey, we can do quite a bit for you. And it's beneficial, especially at this time. We're saving, there are times I save people hundreds or thousands of dollars on a monthly or yearly basis. We can virtually do anything. We also have, there's a new program out called a Net Zero program, which if you don't want to pay any fees, right, you can have the customer build the fees on their receipt. So if the customer comes in and buys a $100 item, the customer gets billed 3.5%, right? And then the merchant pays 0. So instead of the merchant getting a bill at the end of the month, the merchant's paying 0, the customer's paying the fees, And now the merchant's looking at putting thousands upon thousands of dollars into their pockets every
Right.
single year based on that. It's a new program. Some merchants like it, some merchants don't, because some merchants are in today's world that we live in are saying, you know what, I have to do this. And a lot of the customers that are coming into the merchants are understanding that they understand that if they don't do this, the business that they're walking into may not be there tomorrow. So I would tell you, we can help everybody. We have multiple programs to help your customers and multiple programs to help the accountants. And again, whether we present it, whether you present it to the customer, we'll do all the work and present it, or we'll do all the work and do it with you. But we're here to help every one of the customers and try and get them through this. And hopefully next year at this time, we won't be talking about a pandemic and everybody will be healthy and we can move forward and things will be great.
Right. Well, thank you very much for your time today. I wish you well. I hope a lot of our members hear this and give you a call and the phone rings off the hook for you today. Because with the weather and everything else that we're having today would be a good day for you to do some calculating for us.
We're here. I've got about half my staff here in the office. Again, if anyone wants to get in touch with us, our website and everything is on the MSATP website. There's a link to us. If you want to get a hold of us, our phone number is 410-828-4286. If you want to email me, it's mreibman, REIBMAN, @usbne.com. You could send statements with just a note saying, here's 2 statements. Let me know what you can do. Just give us a call and just give us a phone number back where we can reach you. And we'll do whatever it takes to help your customers.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I've enjoyed talking to you today. And I look forward to seeing you at some of our seminars coming up here in May and June.
I hope I'm seeing you, Bill. I can't wait to get there and be back in front of people and be like talking to people about this.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here in the office, but being in the office, like, I need to be out. I need to be talking to people, and I think it's good for everybody. Your customers, my customer, everybody. It's good for it to be out and about.
Right.
But
All right,
thank you for having me.
Sure, it's our pleasure. Thank you very much, and thanks for being a wonderful corporate sponsor.
Guys, stay safe and healthy. I look forward to being at the next event.
Okay.
Take care, Bill.